Welcome back to the deep dive. Today is Friday, January 23rd, 2026. And I just want to start by saying congratulations.
Congratulations.
Us.
For what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Seriously. If you're listening to this, you have officially survived the hype cycle. You made it through the AI will save the world phase. You definitely made it through the AI will destroy the world phase, and you've landed here on the other side.
We made it. It was a bumpy ride, but the air does feel a little different here in 2026, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, for the last 2, maybe 3 years, let's call it 2023 through 2025, we were just drowning in headlines. It was frantic.
Completely. Every single day there was a new model, a new chatbot, a new image generator, putting, the Pope in a puffer jacket. It was just
Loud. Distinctively loud. That's the perfect word for it.
It was a gold rush. And everyone was out there buying shovels, but nobody really knew where to dig. But now, looking at this stack of research we have on the table for today, we've got McKinsey's 2026 forecast, PwC's analysis on agentic software development, these deep dives into shadow AI. It is. It's just clear that the noise has settled. We are not in the hype phase anymore.
We are in the execution reality.
Exactly. The party's over, all the confetti has been swept up, and now, the invoice for the infrastructure has finally arrived.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive today. We are not talking about using AI to write a polite email to your landlord.
Right.
We are not talking about AI theater. We are talking directly to the learner, you, the private equity partner, the C-suite executive, the founder of a really fundamental economic shift. We are talking about a world where the cost of intelligence is approaching zero and what that actually looks like for the person sitting in the CEO chair.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between playing with a toy and redesigning an entire factory. If you're a leader listening to this, the question has completely shifted. It's no longer, how do I use AI?
Right.
It's, how do I organize my entire entity around AI?
So we have a massive stack to get through. We're going to break this into 4 distinct segments. First, we'll take the architect view, the big tectonic shifts in how work itself is defined. Second, the operator view, literally, what does your org chart look like when you have 25,000 digital employees? Third, the roadmap. How do you avoid the disasters we saw back in 24 and 25 with companies like Salesforce and Klarna?
Oh, the cautionary tales, yes.
And finally, the tactics, the war room strategies you can actually use today.
So we're going from the philosophy of work all the way down to the Monday morning checklist.
Let's jump right in. Segment 1, the tectonic shifts.
Let's do it.
Okay, I want to start with a concept that it just kept popping up in the reading, specifically from those McKinsey 2026 forecasts. They talk about moving from the era of process to the era of outcomes.
Right.
Now, that sounds like typical consultant speak. It sounds like something you put on a slide to, justify your fees.
It does. It sounds like a slide deck.
Exactly. But you seem to think this is actually the core of the whole transition. So break that down for us. What does that actually mean on a Tuesday morning when I walk into the office?
It sounds abstract, I know, but it's actually a shift in the mechanics of management that we probably haven't seen in 100 years. I mean, think about management theory going back to Frederick Taylor and the assembly line.
Sure.
For the last century, we have managed steps. If I hire you, I'm hiring you to perform a series of tasks. Open the spreadsheet, find the data, copy the data, put it in the report, email the report. I manage the process. I check your work at every single step to ensure compliance.
Right. I'm paying for your time and your adherence to the steps. If you skip a step, you're a bad employee. If you do the steps faster, you're a good employee. That's the model.
Precisely. But now we're seeing this transition to managing intent. In an AI-first organization, and this is happening right now in 2026, you don't define the steps. You define the outcome. You tell the system, I need a competitive analysis of our 3 biggest rivals in the Asian market focused on their pricing strategies for Q3.
And you don't tell it how.
You don't tell the system how to do it. You don't say, open Google, search for this, click on this link. You just define the what. And the agentic architecture, it figures out the how.
That feels like a huge loss of control for a traditional manager, doesn't it? I mean, it's got to be scary to just say, go do it without seeing the work happen.
It feels like a loss of control, but it's actually an elevation of responsibility. And it connects directly to that fascinating stat from McKinsey about the atom of work. They found that 60 to 70% of employee time is now automatable.
Okay, hang on. Pause right there. 60 to 70%. That number sounds incredibly high. Are we talking about like blue-collar work? Robots in factories?
No, and this is the critical distinction we have to make. We are talking specifically about knowledge work, cognitive labor, and here's the nuance. Don't think of that as robots are taking 70% of the jobs.
Right.
Think of it as the atomic unit of work itself changing. The atom is no longer a task performed by a human. The atom is now a defined outcome requested of a system.
So the job isn't writing the code anymore. The job is delivering the feature. The job isn't writing the copy. It's launching the campaign.
You got it. Exactly. And this distinction is so crucial because I think a lot of people are still stuck in that generative AI mindset of 2023. Oh, it generates text, but we're talking about agentic AI now.
We absolutely need to clarify that definition because people use them interchangeably all the time. What is the hard line between generative AI and agentic AI?
So generative AI creates content. It writes a poem, it draws a picture, it can summarize a PDF. It's passive. It waits for prompts from you, and then it gives you an output. It's a tool you hold in your hand.
Okay.
Agentic AI executes workflows. It reasons, it plans, it acts. It is not a tool, it is a worker.
Give us a concrete example. Let's say I have a contract dispute. What does a generator do versus what an agent does?
Okay, great example. A generator like GPT-4 back in the day, it writes a draft of a letter to the other party. It's helpful, don't get me wrong. It saves you 20 minutes of typing.
Sure.
But you still have to read it, open your email client, paste it in, find the recipient's address, and then hit send. An agent, on the other hand, takes that contract, reviews it against your company's entire risk policy. It identifies 3 clauses that are non-compliant. It drafts the red lines. It emails them to the counterparty's legal counsel. And this is the kicker. It schedules a follow-up meeting in your calendar if they don't reply in 48 hours.
It captures the entire loop.
It closes the loop. It's the difference between a writer and an employee. And that's why we're seeing this explosion in value. We have deep research agents now. McKinsey highlighted these in their tech trends report that can literally scour the web, read 10,000 pages of documentation, synthesize it, and give you a decision memo. That's not just faster typing.
Right.
That is a fundamental collapse of the cognitive labor cost structure.
I want to timeline this because I feel like we've lived through a few really distinct phases to get to this point. If we look at the rearview mirror, say 2024, 2025, that was clearly the era of co-pilots, right?
Year one of the revolution,
Yeah.
the co-pilot era. I mean, we saw stats showing something like 78% of organizations were using AI, but it was almost entirely focused on individual productivity.
Yeah.
You had a coding assistant helping a developer write Python scripts a little bit faster.
Right, or a marketing manager using it to draft a blog post. It was human in the loop. The human was doing the work. The AI was the sidekick.
Exactly, the sidekick. And frankly, a lot of companies saw that and said, okay, cool, maybe we save an hour a week per person. It wasn't transformational. And McKinsey actually notes that while 90% of companies invested, fewer than 40% saw any measurable gains in those early years.
Why, though? That seems like a massive failure rate. If 90% are buying in and only 40% are winning, something is fundamentally broken.
Because they applied AI to tasks, not to workflows. They made the typing faster, but they didn't change the underlying process. And if you have a bad process, a bureaucratic, slow, multi-step approval chain, and you just add AI to it, you just have a faster bad process.
You're just generating the bad reports more quickly.
Exactly. Which brings us to today, 2026. This is year 3. This is the era of agentic workflows.
And this is where the human moves from in the loop to on the loop.
That's the phrase. You are now supervisory. You are the architect of the system, not the operator of the machinery anymore. You're watching the agents work, you're correcting them when they drift, and you're defining the next big objective.
So what's the next step? Looking forward, what's year 5? What does this post-knowledge economy actually look like on the ground?
Year 5 is the AI native business model. This is the point where the cost of intelligence gets pretty close to zero. And McKinsey projects this will unlock something like $2.9 trillion in economic value. But, and this is a big bet, it requires a total redesign. It's not about people using tools anymore. It's about a triad. People, agents, and robots all working together in a mesh.
That phrase, cost of intelligence nearing zero, it's one of those things that sounds fantastic in a keynote speech. But it's got to be terrifying if you sell intelligence for a living.
It is. The Weissenbaum Institute, they have a great name for it. They call it routine bias technological change on steroids. In the past, automation came for the factory floor. It came for routine physical tasks.
Right.
Now it's coming for non-routine cognitive tasks, strategy, analysis, coding, design. If your entire value proposition is I process information and then I make a decision, the cost of doing that is collapsing.
So if you're a CEO listening, you can't just sit there and hope your smart people are going to save you. You have to restructure. Which leads us perfectly into segment 2. designing the AI-first organization. Because the org chart you have today, it's probably obsolete.
It's built for a world that doesn't really exist anymore.
So let's talk about this 25 squared model. This came out of a McKinsey case study looking at their own internal operations. I found this absolutely wild because McKinsey is essentially the temple of human capital.
It is.
They sell smart people by the hour. That is their product.
They do. And yet, here they are now deploying 25,000 AI agents alongside their 40,000 human employees.
25,000 digital employees. That is a massive workforce.
It's a huge workforce. And they call it 25 squared because the goal is to expand their client-facing roles, the people actually shaking hands, solving the high-level strategy, looking a CEO in the eye by 25%.
Okay.
While simultaneously reducing the non-client-facing roles, the back office, the research synthesis, the endless slide formatting by 25%.
So they aren't just firing everyone. That's the knee-jerk assumption people make. They are shifting the center of gravity of the entire organization.
That is the critical insight. I mean, they saved 1.5 million work hours with this model. But they didn't just pocket all of that as margin. They reinvested it into high-touch availability. And this brings up this idea of the new labor ratio. In the past, you'd look at your org chart and you'd just count FTEs, full-time employees. Now, a sophisticated leader is looking at 3 different buckets: FTEs, fractional experts, and AI agents.
Let's touch on that fractional piece. We saw a source from a company called Uber Fractional discussing this. It feels like the Hollywood model is finally coming to corporate America.
That's a great analogy. In Hollywood, you don't keep the cinematographer on the payroll for 10 years, right? You bring them in for the shoot. Corporate America is now realizing that if execution is getting cheap because of AI, then expertise becomes the premium.
Right.
So if I need a chief AI officer, do I really need to hire someone for $400,000 a year plus benefits to sit there for 5 years? Or do I just need a specific competency to set up my architecture for 6 months?
So we're seeing a fundamental shift away from hiring for tenure and toward hiring for competency.
Exactly. And then the agents are the third bucket. But here's the practical question. How do you even put an agent on an org chart? Is it a line item? Is it just software?
That's what I was wondering. How does the CFO treat it? Is it OpEx or is it CapEx?
That's the debate right now. And in the most advanced companies, agents are being treated as digital FTEs. They have performance metrics. They have managers. I mean, if you have a customer service AI that handles 50% of your inbound queries, that is a worker.
Yeah.
It needs to be trained, monitored, and evaluated just like a junior employee.
Which creates a really weird new problem for the human managers, the concept of the agent boss.
It's a completely new skill set. AI fluency and orchestration. If you're a middle manager in 2026, you are no longer just supervising people. You are orchestrating a system. You have, say, 3 humans and 12 agents reporting to you. Your job is to know which tasks go to the humans, the high empathy, high ambiguity stuff, and which go to the agents, the high volume, data-heavy stuff.
But there's a massive risk here, right? We saw this in the fish food source regarding skills atrophy. And this one really resonated with me personally.
Oh, a huge risk. The fish food concept is basically this. If the agents do all the grunt work, the drafting, the basic coding, the initial research, how do the junior employees ever learn?
Right. I learned to be a good writer by writing terrible first drafts that my boss then completely ripped apart. I learned to code by debugging really simple scripts for hours. If the AI writes the perfect first draft and debugs the script, I never learn.
Exactly. It's the junior associate problem. If you automate the bottom of the ladder, you cut off the supply of people who are capable of climbing to the top. And companies are now having to invent these sort of artificial training scenarios.
Like what? What does that look like?
Well, basically flight simulators for executives. You put a junior associate in a simulation where they have to make decisions, draft documents, and solve problems without any AI assistance, just to build the muscle memory.
So we're simulating drudgery just to teach resilience. That is fascinating and slightly dystopian. We're literally simulating work to learn how to work.
It's necessary. Because if the system goes down or the AI hallucinates, someone needs to know how to fly the plane manually.
Okay, let's talk about the danger of not orchestrating this well. We have to talk about shadow AI. This report on mid-sized companies was, frankly, startling. Shadow AI sounds like something out of a spy novel, but it's actually a massive security nightmare.
It's what happens when you don't give your people the tools they need. The data shows that in companies that don't have a formal AI strategy, 90% of the adoption is happening through personal accounts.
Explain what that actually looks like in practice.
Okay, it looks like your VP of sales taking your entire proprietary customer list, copying it, and pasting it into his personal ChatGPT account to write an email blast.
Ouch. So the data just left the building.
But data left the building, and it is now potentially training a public model. The report calls this Path 1. It offers fast productivity. They measured about a 5.4% time savings on average, but you are leaking IP like a sieve. And you have zero visibility. You don't know who is using what or for what purpose.
Okay, so that's Path 1. Then you have Path 2, departmental AI.
This is what I call subscription hell. This is where everyone buys their own tools. Marketing buys Jasper, engineering buys Copilot, HR buys some other thing. The report showed costs were inflating 36% year over year. The average monthly spend for a mid-market company hit over $85,000 just on these scattered AI subscriptions.
It's inefficient and it's expensive.
Totally. Which is why the winner is Path 3, private AI.
Right.
Building your own systems, your walled gardens. You take an open source model like Llama or a private instance of a big model through Azure or AWS. You host it inside your own secure perimeter, and you feed it your data. The stats here are really compelling. 66% of companies doing this report significant operational improvements, and crucially, the costs decrease as usage scales because you're not paying per-seat subscriptions for every new tool.
That leads to some really interesting tactical moves around that data. One of the sources, I think it was Jassy from Amazon, mentioned context engineering.
Yes. This is Andy Jassy's core point. The model itself is becoming a commodity. Whether you use GPT-5 or Claude or Gemini, they're all roughly equally smart at this point. The magic is the context. Context engineering is the art of curating all of your internal data, your Slack messages, your past contracts, your customer emails, so that when the agent goes to work, it knows your company.
It knows that Project Apollo means the Q3 marketing launch, not the actual moon landing.
Exactly. If you don't engineer the context, the AI is just a very smart stranger. If you do, it's like a tenured employee who's read every document the company has ever produced.
And then there was the concept of pre-mortems. I loved this idea.
Oh, it's brilliant. Before you launch a big strategy, you spin up a set of agents that are configured to act as your competitors or as skeptical customers. You feed them your strategy and you tell them, tear this apart.
So you use the AI to simulate failure scenarios before you've even spent a dime. It's like a war game in a box.
And it's completely unbiased. Your own employees might be afraid to tell you your big idea is bad. The agent isn't. The agent doesn't care about your feelings. It just cares about the logical gap you missed on slide 4.
Okay, so we've designed the org, we've got a private AI going, we're avoiding shadow AI. Now let's talk about what we are actually building with this. Segment 3, the product and customer roadmap.
Yeah, this is where we really separate the toys from the tools.
And that critical distinction between AI inside and AI native.
Right, so AI Inside is a feature. It's a chatbot inside your existing banking app. It's a summarize button in your word processor. It's useful, but is it defensible? Probably not. Everyone has it.
It's just table stakes. If your app doesn't have it, you look outdated, but having it doesn't make you special anymore.
Exactly. AI Native, on the other hand, is a service that could not exist without AI. Think of autonomous coding delivery, where the software literally writes itself based on user feedback. Or hyper-personalized education, where the curriculum rewrites itself in real time based on a student's confusion. That isn't a feature. That is the entire product.
Andy Jassy from Amazon, he broke this down into 3 layers, which I found really helpful to just visualize the market.
The Amazon stack, yeah. So layer 1 is compute, the chips, the Trainium, the raw horsepower. That's for the NVIDIAs and AWSs of the world.
Right.
Layer 2 is models as a service Bedrock, Azure, OpenAI, that sort of thing. But layer 3 is the application layer. And Jassy's big prediction is that every SaaS application is going to be rebuilt with AI.
That is a bold claim. Every single SaaS app.
It's existential. If you are a Salesforce or Workday or HubSpot, and your entire user experience is built on this sort of database-informed logic, meaning the user has to click File, then New, then type into a box, you are incredibly vulnerable to an agentic logic where the user never fills out a form again.
Right. Why would I ever use a complicated dashboard if I can just tell an agent, update the customer record with this new information?
Exactly. And speaking of Salesforce and Klarna, we have to talk about the AI theater failures, because 2024 and 2025 had some really high-profile faceplants that I think we can all learn from.
The cautionary tales. Let's start with Klarna. They made a massive splash claiming their AI was doing the work of 700 customer service agents.
Great headline.
Amazing headline, stock bumps up. But then, by early 2025, what happened? Customer satisfaction plummeted.
Why? I mean, if the AI is so smart, why did satisfaction drop?
Because they realized that while the AI could handle all the easy stuff, refunds, tracking numbers, it completely failed at nuance. It couldn't de-escalate an angry customer. It couldn't solve a complex, multivariable dispute where the customer was technically wrong, but, you needed to keep them happy.
So it lacked emotional intelligence.
It lacked contextual empathy. And Salesforce had a similar problem, didn't they? Laying off humans for agents.
Yes. They pivoted so hard to Agentforce, laid off a huge number of human support staff, and then they realized they had created something called expertise debt.
Expertise debt. Define that for the listener, because that is a killer phrase.
It's when you get rid of the people who actually know how the system works because you think the machine can do it all. But when the machine encounters an edge case, something it's never seen before, it just fails. And suddenly you realize you fired the only person who knew how to fix it. They had to scramble to rehire for what they were calling skill debt.
Which brings us to the CLEAR framework. This was from that RCEF paper on evaluating enterprise agents. I think every leader needs to tattoo this on their arm because it solves the Klarna problem.
CLEAR. So it stands for cost, latency, efficacy, assurance, and reliability. And the paper's main argument is just so powerful. Accuracy is not enough.
Unpack that, because usually we just think if the AI is right, it's good.
Not in a business context. See, everyone obsesses over efficacy. Did the AI get the right answer? But imagine this scenario. The AI gets the perfect answer, but it costs you $10 per query. That's cost.
Yeah.
Or it takes 45 seconds to generate the answer. That's latency. Or, and this is the big one, it works 60% of the time on a single run, but if you run it 8 times in a row, the consistency drops to 25%. That's reliability.
So it's brilliant, but flaky and incredibly expensive.
Exactly. And that is a bad employee. If you had a human employee who was a genius but only showed up 25% of the time and charged $10,000 an hour, you'd fire them.
The cost trap numbers in that report were startling. They found that these accuracy optimal agents, the ones using the biggest, smartest models, can cost 4 to 10 times more than the cost-aware alternative.
So you just don't need GPT-6 for everything.
You rarely need the Nobel Prize winner to file your taxes for you. Sometimes you just need a smart, reliable accountant. If you only optimize for smart, you will go bankrupt. You have to optimize for clear. You have to balance that cost against the efficacy.
So how do you build a roadmap that doesn't fall into these traps? The sources suggest avoiding what they call pilot purgatory.
The 50 pilots problem. We see it all the time. Companies trying a little bit of everything. A pilot in HR, a pilot in legal, a pilot in marketing.
It's like throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, and none of it scales. The advice is pretty clear. Pick 3 high ROI missions, not experiments, missions.
Give me an example of a mission versus a pilot.
Okay, a pilot is, let's give the loan officers a chatbot and see if they like it. It's weak. A mission is, we will reduce our loan processing time from 14 days down to 4 hours.
That's a fundamentally different kind of statement.
It is. A mission requires you to re-architect the entire flow. It requires data integration. It requires regulatory checks. It forces you to change the business, not just play with the tool. If you solve that, you change the P&L. If you just pilot a chatbot, you get a fun demo and absolutely no money.
And then there's this concept of utility versus moat.
Yes. You ship utility today to fund the moat of tomorrow. Utility is efficiency cutting costs, saving time. That frees up cash.
Okay.
You then use that cash to build the moat, which is your proprietary intelligence, the data that only you have.
The data is the moat.
The data and the customer interactions that only you can capture. If you rely on the model itself to be your moat, you lose because everybody has the model. Everyone can rent Claude or GPT. Not everyone has 10 years of your customer support logs.
I love that. Use the savings from the boring stuff to fund the unique, defensible stuff. Okay, let's move to our last segment, segment 4. Tactical fun and competitive edge. Because while we're busy restructuring, we also want to win, and there are some pretty aggressive tactics emerging right now.
This is the war room stuff. This is where it gets fun.
Talk to me about deep research agents for competitor analysis.
This is something you can do right now, today. You spin up an agentic workflow using a tool like LangChain, and you tell it, monitor the pricing pages of these 5 competitors every single hour. Monitor their mentions on Reddit. Monitor the Glassdoor reviews.
Glassdoor? Why Glassdoor?
Because unhappy employees leak strategy. And the agent doesn't just look at the data, it analyzes it. It can come back and tell you, competitor X just lowered their prices in the Northeast region by 5%. And by the way, their employee sentiment on Glassdoor suggests a major reorg is coming in their sales team.
Wow, that used to cost a consulting firm $50,000 in 3 weeks to tell you.
And now you get it in a morning briefing automatically for pennies. That is sentiment gaming, and it's real-time market warfare. You can react before their press release even goes out.
And then there's the agentic SDLC, the software development lifecycle. This is from that PwC report.
This is huge for any company that builds software. We are rapidly moving from coding to reviewing. The data shows 80% of companies are already permitting third-party AI tools in their dev environments. But the shift is that the AI writes the code, it writes the tests, and it even attempts the deployment.
So the human developer isn't sitting there typing if-then statements anymore.
No. The human developer becomes a code reviewer and a system architect. They look at the output from the agent and they say, that logic is sound, or no, that creates a security vulnerability. Their job is judgment, not syntax.
Which goes right back to the skill shift. The demand for AI fluency has grown 7-fold. But what about the culture? We touched on the human handshake.
This is the critical counterbalance. As we automate more and more of the logic, the premium on that human handshake goes way up. And this is about defining explicitly, where does the human enter the loop?
And it shouldn't just be whenever the bot fails, right?
Yeah.
That's purely reactive.
No, it has to be by design. You want humans for high-stakes decisions. Big money, big risk. You want them for high-empathy situations, angry customers, sensitive news. And you want them for high-ambiguity problem situations the data has never seen before. If you automate those, you lose your soul and you lose your customers. But if you keep humans in the loop for data entry, you lose your margin. You have to get that handshake exactly right.
So we've covered the tectonic shifts, the org design, the product roadmap, and the tactics. I want to bring this all home. We have a CEO listening right now. It's Monday morning. They're staring at their coffee. What are the 3 things that have to be on their checklist?
Monday morning checklist. I like it.
Item 1.
Audit the shadow. You absolutely cannot manage what you don't see. Find out where your employees are using shadow AI, that 90% we talked about.
Yeah.
And don't ban it. That energy is good. It shows they want to be productive. But you have to migrate it into a secure, private AI infrastructure. Give them the tools so they stop leaking your company's secrets.
Item 2.
Reimagine one workflow. Just one. Don't try to boil the ocean. Pick one core process loan approval, content creation, supply chain routing, whatever it is, and redesign it entirely around an agent-first model. Not how does AI help the human, but how do agents do the work and where does the human supervise?
And item 3.
Redefine the org chart. Stop hiring for roles and start hiring for outcomes. And you have to seriously consider where a digital FTE belongs on your P&L. If you're hiring a new marketing manager, ask yourself, is this a person? Or is this a cluster of agents managed by one human strategist?
That is a powerful list. Audit the shadow, reimagine one workflow, redefine the org chart.
It's the difference between just surviving this transition and actually leading it.
Before we go, I want to leave the listener with one final, slightly provocative thought. It's something that came up in that agent contracts paper we looked at.
Ah, the liability question. This is the sleeper issue of 2026, I'm telling you.
We're moving towards systems where we are, for all intents and purposes, signing contracts with digital agents. We are delegating real authority.
Right. And if your autonomous supply chain agent orders 10,000 units of the wrong part because it hallucinated a demand spike, who is liable? Is it the software vendor? Is it the employee who turned it on? Is it the company itself?
The cost of intelligence is falling, just like we said at the top.
But the cost of responsibility is rising. We are entering a world where we have to answer. If the agent messes up, who goes to jail? Or at the very least, who pays the bill?
So the final question is this. Are you building an organization that just uses AI? Or are you building an organization that is led by the partnership between human creativity and digital scale?
That's the question.
Thank you for listening to this deep dive. Good luck with the audit.
See you in the future.